During the 1800s, the lives of the mentally ill and the outcasts of society were taken too lightly. The list of reasons for a person to be admitted to a mental hospital were ridiculously long, and the treatment of mental patients was inhumane. They were chained, caged, beaten, neglected, and forced to undergo cruel and unusual punishments. And institutions like prisons and asylums were few in number, which often led to overcrowding. These institutions also did not have any mandatory living conditions to meet the needs of the prisoners and mental patients. The people suffering under these living conditions had no voice, no confidence, and no hope. Until an American activist spoke up and became the voice of the mad. Her name was Dorothea Dix, and she was born in Hampton, Maine in 1802. She lived with her wealthy grandmother and became a school teacher. She established an elementary school in her grandmother's home and wrote books, some of which were extremely popular with school teachers. While she was pursuing a teaching career, she frequently suffered from coughing and general fatigue. Feeling overwhelmed by this physical illness, she often dwelled on the idea of death. There is evidence that suggests that she suffered from depression and experienced a mental breakdown during this period. Her own struggles probably helped her to make her an ardent and strong advocate for people who have been diagnosed as mentally unstable or insane. Dix's physician encouraged her to take a trip to Europe for the sake of rehabilitation. She was recovering mentally and physically for more than over a year at the home of politician and reformer William Rathbone. She also met prison reformer Elizabeth Fry and Samuel Tuke, founder of the New York Retreat for the Mentally Ill. These encounters and the exchange of ideas with these people pushed Dorothea to speak out on behalf of mental patients and prisoners. She returned to Boston just after the death of her grandmother. The inheritance she received from her grandmother allowed her to do more charitable work and focus on reform. In 1841, she explored East Cambridge Jail when she was asked to volunteer to teach Sunday school classes to female convicts. She became determined to improve the living conditions of the prison after what she saw. She began to explore the issue more in the state of Massachusetts, and she found a pattern of abusive treatment of mental patients and bad living conditions. In 1843, she submitted her first memorial to the state legislature. A male representative read her memorial out loud before the legislature, since women were not allowed to participate in politics. I tell what I have seen. I proceed, gentlemen, briefly to call your attention to the present state of insane persons confined within this commonwealth, in cages, closets, cellars, stalls, pens, chained, naked, heated with rods, and lashed into obedience. She drew attention to the horrible treatment of the mentally ill in prisons, almshouses for the poor, and asylums. After the legislature talked amongst themselves, they decided to set funds aside for the expansion of Worcester State Hospital. Once she had won the support of the Massachusetts legislature, she set out to explore other states and repeat the same process. She was able to cover every state on the east side of the Mississippi River. As a result, she played a huge role in founding 32 mental hospitals, 15 schools for the feeble-minded, a school for the blind, and numerous training facilities. By 1880, there were 123 mental hospitals, but she had bigger plans that were not able to be fulfilled. In 1843, she asked the United States Congress for 5 million acres of land to be set aside and used for the mentally ill. By 1854, a bill was passed and approved by both houses, and was vetoed by President Franklin Pierce. He believed that social welfare was the responsibility of the states. Even though she failed to advocate for the mentally ill on a national level, it didn't stop her from advocating on a global level. She traveled to many countries in Europe to inspect jailhouses and mental asylums, just like she did in the United States. She visited Scotland, France, Austria, Italy, Greece, Turkey, Russia, Sweden, Denmark, Belgium, and Germany. Her advocacy in Europe resulted in sweeping changes that took only 2 years. It took her 6 years to get the United States government to respond, which didn't get the president's approval. This goes to show that Europe's political system was much more responsive and sensitive to social issues than the United States. It's still an issue today, believe it or not. But by the end of Ms. Dix's career, she pushed for big changes in mental hospitals and prison reform, and inspired future reformers to follow her path. And that person is prepared to struggle, explore, encounter, and exchange just like Dorothea Dix.